Alright, hey guys, welcome back to another video. And in today's video I'm gonna give you 3 of my favorite ACR loadouts. And as you probably saw in the title, I have maxed out my ACR to level 100. So I'd say I've used this gun a lot, and I know what almost every attachment does, and I kinda have like a rough idea of what loadout to use for whatever you're trying to do with this gun. And without any further delay, let's get into it. So the first loadout that I want to go over is the loadout that I like to call the ACR movement loadout. And here's the loadout, by the way, if you want to take a screenshot or something. And so by the way, for each loadout, I'm going to go into in depth of what every attachment does, and to give you sort of like an idea, because these loadouts aren't supposed to be like fixed in stone. You're supposed to experiment with these, because that's the point of having the ability to make your own loadouts. It's supposed to be unique to every player, right? So I would highly encourage for you to, like, you can use this as template, just use it for a few games if you can build a loadout or you haven't found a loadout that you like. You can take one of these 3, you can use them for a couple of games, see how you like them, and then replace any attachments based on what you like, what you don't like. And so for that purpose, I'm going to break down every single attachment that I'm using, and I'm going to break down basically what it does. So you know, if you want something changed, you know which attachment to replace in which build. And to start off, we are going with the lightweight barrel. And what this does basically, as you can see, I'm going to use my mouse for this. As you can see, it increases the ADS speed, and it increases your movement speed, and it decreases your short range and your medium range. Now, ADS speed is how quick you can ADS. Movement speed is how fast you're striking. If you go into the detailed stats down here, this is like in that detail. You don't need to be confused by this. It's like super simple stuff. So if you come right here, this is your movement. This is your movement normally, and this is your movement when you're ADS 10. So when your normal movement, your normal state when you're not ADS 10, gets increased to 1.0. This is, by the way, everything that's in white is the default values, and everything that is green is what this attachment buffs, and everything that would be red would be what this attachment nerfs, as we can see on the left side. I'll go over this at the end. But basically, for this specific attachment, it increases your movement speed when you're not ADS 10, and it decreases the amount of time it takes for you to ADS. So basically, you can ADS quicker. And by what I mean by ADS quicker, I can show you real quick. This, you see this like transition from normal to ADS. This is your ADS speed, and this gets reduced. So obviously, if it's taking less time, then it's quicker. Next attachment, we have the front rail. And by the way, quick little thing, if you go into the detail stat on this screen, like on this screen, you actually see the entire stats of the gun. However, if you're inside an attachment and you're over an attachment, you select an attachment, and then you go into the detail stats, then you only see what that specific attachment changes. So if you want to see the stats of your entire build, you can come back to this screen and then go into detail stats, and you will see the entire build. You will see what's better in this build than the default ones, which is like the white one, and what's worse in this build, which is like the red ones here and here, which is like worse than the white ones, which is default. And so yeah, that's basically how to guide yourself using stats while making a build. So next we're using the pistol front rail. And what this does is basically it increases your sprint to shoot time. So sprint to shoot time is basically when you're sprinting, for you to start shooting. When, let's say, you're sprinting around a corner and you run into someone, you're going to shoot at them, right? And that takes time. That transition from sprint to shoot is the sprint shoot time. And plus 10%, it doesn't mean that it takes more time. It means it's quicker, basically. So it takes like less time. It's kind of confusing, but it's not that confusing, honestly. So next thing it does, it increases the minimum spread accuracy and the maximum spread accuracy. And this is not that good. This is like hip fire accuracy from what I understand. So this is not that good, but I basically found everything else was like, this is like the best I found a front rail to be. Again, you can experiment with all of these. If you want to watch this video, you will have a rough idea of what every attachment does, and therefore you can go from there and get an idea of what every other attachment does. And probably in the future I'll make a guide, an in-depth guide on how to create a loadout from scratch, where I will go every stat in the game, like every stat here and what every stat does. And yeah, I will probably make a loadout. If you want to watch that loadout, if you want to watch that guide on how to make a loadout, don't forget to subscribe. I upload every day, so yeah. So this, it increases the spread, your hip thrust spread, like it tightens it, and you can see that right here. This is your hip thrust spread. Default spread is 5, and using this, by this attachment, it gets tighter. And as we can see, it does, however, affect your recoil. However, as I said, this is a movement loadout. So basically, you're supposed to use this ACR as like a direct competition to other SMGs. Now, at this point, you probably might be asking, why would I use the ACR over the SMG? And I think that's a good time for us to come on this side of the build. I'm going to go into the full stats so you can get an idea. So this is your damage and range. By default, under 33 meters, the damage per bullet is 21. From 33 meters to 45 meters, by default, it's 19. And from 45 meters to 300 meters, it's 17. Now, if you go back to any SMG, like let's take the MP7, for example, and we come into the MP7 stats, you can see that under 15 meters, you have 19 damage, right? But as soon as you go over that, by default it's 17. This is my build changing it to 15, but by default it's 17. So under 70 meters, you have 19 damage per bullet. However, as soon as you step a meter above that, it drops off all the way to 11. So SMGs, as good as they may be close range, the damage in this game specifically tends to fall off really, really quickly. Like this is not called, this is not like COD or Apex where you can just use an SMG to map someone across the map. You still could, but it would take a lot of bullets and a lot of recoil control. So SMGs are like super, super close range. So if you want a gun that gives you the movement of an SMG, and at the same time has the range capabilities of an AR, then this AR movement build, this ACR movement build is the one you should go for. And yeah, next, optics. Now here's one thing, well, pretty much everything in this build you can change, but obviously this is like one of the easiest ones to change, to experiment with. What I would like ask you to, what I would suggest you experiment with is go with the reflex optic over the mag. Because the mag is like, it's good to have a mag, but you know what I mean? Like it's not as deep as the other attachments where 15% ADS speed and blah, blah, blah. Like it's pretty simple what a mag does, and it's pretty easy to understand what a fucking reflex does, right? So that's like the first spot I would want you to experiment with. Just try to see if you like an optic, try to see if you like the default iron side. I like the default iron side for my movement build because I'm not shooting in much range anyways, since the gun has the gun is not built to have good recoil, it's built to have movement. So I just go with the mag instead of the optic. And yeah, moving on to the rear grip. And no, before that, magazine. So basically the two magazine options you have is the quick mag and the fast mag. And I suggest the quick mag because it doesn't affect your ADS speed and ADS flinch control. And since it's a movement based build, I wouldn't want you to hurt your ADS speed, because the whole the whole point of having a movement build is to use a close range, right? So you wouldn't want that close range ADS speed to get hurt, because close range ADS speed is super important. You could, if you were to go with an accuracy build, you could use the fast mag over the quick mag, but specifically in this build, I prefer the quick mag. And moving on to the rear grip, we have the quick draw rear grip, and it's also simple stuff. Basically speeds up your sprint to shoot time, which we already talked about. It speeds up your ADS speed, so basically how long it takes to ADS, it speeds that up, and it decreases your ADS ability. And one thing you'll probably start to note a pattern is that every single attachment we're using basically buffs movement speed in some way and nerfs accuracy in some way. And that's basically like the idea. You want the maximum amount of movement you can get from every single attachment without a regard for accuracy, at least in a movement based, not at least, like in a movement based build. That's what you want. You want to give up accuracy for movement speed. And last thing we have is the stock, which is which the two options you would have is either lightweight or removed or even folded maybe. But honestly, my personal experience with all of them, I find the removement to be the fastest one, because it basically super buffs your sprint to shoot time, and it also slightly increases your movement speed. Again, it affects your ADS flinch control, your horizontal recoil control, your vertical recoil control. But again, this is a movement build. We're not going for long range mapping kills. What we need is a AR with the flexibility of an AR, but one that can compete with this movement speed of an SMG. And yeah, so this is basically the first build, which is a movement build. And if we go over to the detail stats, here are the things that we have changed. Now, remember when I told you not to worry about the minus 10% short range and medium range? Well, that's because it doesn't actually decrease the damage. It just decreases what means short range and long range. So basically, short range for ACR normally would be 33 meters. Normally, under 33 meters, you would have 21 damage per bullet, and under 45 meters, you would have 19 damage per bullet. But since this is like a close range build, a movement build, we can get away with these value getting slightly reduced because again you're probably not going to be shooting at that range anyways, but when you do, you would still have a good amount of damage compared to, let's say, an MP7 who would just drop off to 11 damage per bullet after 50 meters, 70 meters, sorry. So yeah, that's our first build of the day. And again, as I said, I want you to use these as templates and not as fixed loadout that you have to use like this. Change whatever you want, change the mag, change the optic, change the stock, experiment. That's the whole point. Okay, but this is a good point to start if you want to build it. That's a movement build for the ACR. This is a good template for you to start. All right, next we move on to the accuracy build. And this is what most people have in mind when they're thinking of building an ACR build, is they want the accuracy, because if you don't know, the ACR is the most accurate AR in the game. So yes, here's the build if you want to just copy paste. But again, I would highly recommend that you stick through the explanation so you know what each attachment does. So you know if you want something different about your gun, you know which attachment to replace. But yeah, again, if you just want to copy paste, here you go. And yeah, so starting off, we have the stabilizing barrel, and as you would probably guess, it fixes the improves the recoil, the horizontal recoil and the vertical recoil. It slightly affects the sprint to shoot time and the ADS walking speed, and we can see that here. As we can go into the in-depth details of this attachment, we can see that this is the recoil. By default, the recoil is 50% on both sides, horizontal and recoil. And by this attachment, we get it slightly reduced. We get it reduced to 48%, which doesn't seem a lot, but it does seem to matter. And here we can see the sprint out time. This is like the sprint to shoot time. It gets slightly increased. This is the normal one, 320, and it gets increased to 336, which in my opinion is not that big of a difference. But yeah, I mean, I understand that every single second matters, or millisecond in this case. And next we have the front rail, and again, you can experiment with all of these and similar theme, experiment, see what you like, replace what you don't like. But I really seem to think that the tactical recoil recovery, the recoil recovery seems to really make the gun like a lot easier to handle. And it also slightly increases the ADS speed. So like basically it increases the amount of time it takes to ADS. And yeah, at the same time, it makes the gun slightly more easier to handle, thanks to the 35% recoil recovery. And next, optics. Of course, if you want an accuracy based loadout, you have to use an optic, because obviously you're going to use this kind of long ranges, and the iron sight is going to make it really hard to shoot long range. So yeah, you definitely want an optic on this. But again, as always, the theme is always there. This is a template. This is not a fixed. Class. This is a template. So replace what you think you don't like. Replace what you don't like. And rear grip here, this is like we're going off theme here, and again, this is what I like to do. So yeah, you can experiment with other things, but yeah, this is where we go slightly off theme of the recoil and all that. And the reason why, because we go slightly off theme, is because I didn't want a build where it's super accurate, but it's like really chunky and heavy to use. And I feel like just adding the quick draw rear grip tends to slightly mediate that. It like slightly makes the gun feel lighter, and it doesn't feel as chunky and heavy and super slow. So yeah, this is like a personal preference thing. And as you can see, this basically increases our sprint to shoot time, and it increases the ADS speed. So basically, the sprint to shoot time that we fucked up by the one of the previous attachments, it gets slightly buffed here. And lastly, we have the stock, and here we go with the precision stock, obviously keeping with the theme of keeping with the theme of accuracy, we go with the precision stock, which helps our horizontal recoil, our vertical recoil. It fucks up the recoil recovery, but that's why we went with the tactical grip, because it buffs the recoil recovery so much that even if it gets slightly fucked here, it doesn't matter. It's still gonna feel good. And again, it slightly nerfs the ADS speed, and that's part of the reason why we went with the quick draw grip, because of all the movement nerfs that everything else gave us. This basically tries to mediate that effect. And that's my loadout, my preferred loadout when I want to go with the accuracy, when I want a AR to go for accuracy. And yeah, quick little thing, I forgot to mention this, but you can pair these different loadouts with different factions. So basically what I would suggest is, if you're on an arena map, for example, if you're on not arena map, but like the map arena or Echelon HQ, or any of the maps that's like basically can be considered as SMG maps, you would want to go with the movement build, and you can pair that with Echelon. And that would be with Echelon, or maybe the healer one, the fucking Libertad. You can probably pair the movement build with those two factions. And what I would suggest, the best legend, what my preferred go-to legend is for the accuracy build, is the Phantoms, as you might have guessed, because of the ability to just hold down a spot, and that extra HP just helps when you can't, move around, jump around. Like if you have more HP than the other guy and you have more accuracy than the other guy, then it's almost impossible to lose, if you know what I mean. And yeah, so that's my go-to faction when I'm using the accuracy based loadout. And lastly, we have like sort of a wildcard loadout, where it's not actually a movement or an accuracy build. This is just like a build that I probably change every single match. So I said 3 loadouts, but this last one is like my personal loadout that I'm using right now. And again, I just fuck around every game. If I think I don't like something, I change it, and then I change it. And even right now, probably by the time of uploading this, if I've used this anymore, I may have changed another attachment. It's sort of a journey, right? That's the reason why. But that's literally the name of the loadout, ACR journey. And this is what I want you to do as well. I want you to take one of these 3 loadouts as a template, and then I want you to change them until you find a loadout that you like. Okay. And yeah, this is the loadout I have right now. I have this, again, this keeps changing. If you want like a latest version of this, you can pop by my stream. I stream on Twitch, by the way, shameless plug. I should stream on Twitch every day. So if you want like a latest build of this, the latest version of this, you can just pop by my stream, type _ACR, and you should get like a loadout. You should get my main loadout, and you should also get the other 2 loadouts if you're if you want them. And yeah, so basically, let's go into the detailed stats first. So the theme of this loadout is well, I would be lying if I said it has a theme. I just go with, like, I just keep replacing shit, so that it doesn't really have a general theme. But basically, the short and medium range are slightly nerfed. The base movement speed is slightly buffed. The ADS speed, this is like something I really personally don't like, when it takes like a really long time for my gun to ADS. So that's I know exactly which attachments did this, but I used one of the attachments to basically do this. And the hipfire spread. The hipfire spread doesn't actually matter that much, because in this game, and as in most other arcade shooters, hipfire is dog shit, okay? And you're not going to be hipfiring anyway. So the hipfire spread from 5 to 6, when 5 is like horrifyingly terrible anyways, doesn't matter that much, okay? So yeah, if you're using an attachment and you see this, like, let me even show you an example. This front rail, the PEG 15, it gives you plus 40% minimum spread accuracy and plus 40% maximum spread accuracy. And you see, in the accuracy, like the stat, this should max it out. But this is like a placebo effect, because the only thing this does is it increases your, it tightens your spread, which in my personal opinion, again, I could be wrong about this, but this is just useless, because you're not going to be firing anyways, okay? So like, this is just like a stat buff. It doesn't matter, okay? So okay, I'm not gonna lie, I forgot which attachment I was using. Fuck. Okay, yeah, I think I was using the tactical. If I was not using the tactical, you can go back. But this is like sort of an example of the process. Okay, you just fuck around and find out. And optics, I really like to have an optic on every AR I use, especially the ones where they're long range. And yeah, magazine, we have the quick mag, as I explained before. I personally like the quick mag over the fast mag, but again, it's a preference type thing. Like as with all of these attachments, it's a preference thing. You want your gun to feel how you want it to feel. Okay, so every person is going to be different in that regard. I don't use a rear grip because I like to go with the stock. I like the folded stock, and the main reason is because my favorite AK-47 class has a folded stock, so I was trying to replicate that feeling with this with the ACR, with my ACR loadout as well. But I don't know, I may have to experiment more with stocks, and honestly I may have to experiment with the whole loadout, with the loadout as a whole, because right now I'm really liking my my AK loadout over my ACR, even though I have this gold and my AK is still around level 50 I think. But yeah, I have a really good AK loadout that I'm gonna post soon. Like I think it's gonna be the next upload. So if you want an AK loadout that's like really good, you can subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification so you don't miss a video. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I know it was like a long video for like breaking down loadouts, but I don't want to just give you 3 loadouts and just encourage you to just copy paste them, because you're not going to know what every attachment does, and you're not going to know how to change the gun. You're not going to know how to make the gun feel different if you don't know why the gun feels like that in the first place, right? So it might feel in depth for like an attachment video, but yeah, that's how I like to do things there. And anyways, if you enjoyed the video, thank you for watching, and you can catch me live on Twitch. I stream almost every day. I play XDefiant almost every day. Among other things, I also play Apex. So yeah, and that's pretty much it for the video. Again, thank you for watching, and subscribe for more content.